What are hellish Galbrena's biggest pros and cons? That's what I'm here to tell you today. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. To start, we should discuss how she has many different teammate options. That's right, even though Choyuwen is being designed as our dedicated support, she's actually not really all that restrictive, ending up as a character that actually has numerous different characters that you're able to play her with. Namely, if you've invested a lot into fusion characters. This means that she's able to play well with the likes of Changli, Brent Wuthering Waves, Lupa, Mortefi, you get the deal. As long as you have some fusion characters on you, you're gonna be able to do quite well. Ideally, yes, you would use Choyuwen with her. She's going to have echo-based skills, and he's going to be able to support that. However, with that being said, you're still easily able to leverage generalist fusion buffs. There's going to be a couple of different setups that you're able to use in that regard, such as Lupa into Mortefi, or even just Shorekeeper Mortefi if you don't have that. Classic double fusion with Changli and Brent, you get the point. None of it's going to be as strong as our best in slot, obviously, but it's still going to be an alternative option that you can consider. So because of this, she ends up having many teammates. And because of this, I also think that she fits quite nicely into what fusion has been built up to be so far. That being, the element that houses the most flexible class of characters in Wuthering Waves. So whether you're a based Choyuwen simp, or if you're just really into fusion characters in general and you've invested a lot into those, then you're in luck. Because you're going to end up having plenty of nice options for your Galbrena. Moving on, she's also going to be a ranged DPS. As we all know by this point, this is always a pretty nice thing. Consider how it panned out with our dearest esteemed Montelli lady Carlotta. She's also a ranged DPS, and that gives her the edge in so many scenarios, so whenever a boss moves around really quickly like Hecate, it's not annoying at all to keep up with them, and there are numerous bosses in this game that do zip around the place, so being super ranged and being able to hit from a far distance is such nice quality of life. Of course, with melee characters it usually just involves running up to them or stunning the boss or something along those lines, but it's always nice to have an additional quality of life layer on top of that. Plus, characters who have this level of range and flexibleness when it comes to their movement tend to be really nice in holograms too. You're not going to be sacrificing much damage if you have to dodge or move somewhere else or reposition. Being able to do so is just kind of naturally built into your kit, and I feel like you're naturally going to be able to dodge a lot of things and just kind of have a smooth gameplay experience overall. And I should say, her gameplay does look absolutely sick, but it's Kuro Games, we already know that they're killing it at this point. Even so, I would like to add on a point about how she does have unique gameplay. This is because she is based around echo skill damage. This means she's going to end up having excellent synergy with Choyuwen because he's being designed to support that type of character, and it also means that she herself is going to be relatively unique. I mean, you see the gameplay yourself. She looks very, very strong and seems to be very, very promising. So, I would say that in that aspect, if you're somebody that's just really interested in the look of her gameplay and you really like the fluidity of it, then I do think that she's going to be worth your time. I don't see any reason as to why she's not going to be good in Whimpering Wastes too. I think she'll easily be able to cover for all endgame modes. I personally think that Kuro Games definitely designs new 5-star units to be good in both modes nowadays. We don't really get anybody that's insanely backloaded anymore, and whenever we do, they tend to still be pretty good in wuwa throughout their entire rotation. Like, yes, Frolova is somewhat backloaded, she needs some time to set up her stuff. However, she absolutely mows down Whimpering Wastes, so she absolutely compensates for it. In fact, to be honest, compensates is somewhat of an understatement in that situation. But anyways, back to Galbrena. She is absolutely going to be impressive and powerful. And I think that that is definitely going to extend to wuwa as well, because you need to consider how every fusion character up until this point has been absolutely excellent in that mode, and triple fusion just absolutely annihilates that game mode, like, oh boy levels of annihilation. We'll have to see how she does with Choyuwen in wuwa, I'm not too sure. I personally do think that she'll be very good though. I don't really see any reason as to why not. Her damage numbers are obviously going to be good because she's a DPS releasing in 2.x, and genuinely, try to name me a 2.x main DPS, but hasn't held up well to this day. Their damage numbers are just generally very high. This means that she's going to be a very reliable pickup for basically anybody that needs a strong main DPS, but I feel like that point applies to basically any good 2.x DPS. But in any case, if you're somebody that doesn't have 4 good Thieves or TOA yet, or you just need a stronger character in general, then yes, Galbrena is going to most definitely be a good choice for you. There is no doubt in my mind that she is going to end up being quite a strong character, and definitely fulfill your needs in that aspect. I personally don't see why she wouldn't end up being a very good main DPS. And I will say that if you do already have a good plethora of teams, but you haven't invested that much into fusion, then perhaps she is going to be worth your time getting, because if you literally have skipped every fusion 5-star up until this point, then that does boost her particular value on your account, because she's going to be more of a hypercarry, as opposed to somebody that wants to play with a bunch of other specific fusions. You can do that, and it's going to be good, definitely, However, I'm just saying that you very much can ignore that and just play her as a hyper if you're more into that, because I will say that up until this point, fusion characters have had a more specific type of playstyle. Triple fusion features the character swapping in one after another in the triple team style, and otherwise, there's also the big quick swapping playstyles. So whenever you consider that, Galbrena's more hypercarry-like nature may suit you more, and of course, you can still swing the other way if that interests you more. You're easily able to just go and play her with the other fusions if that's what you personally want to do, but either way, the hypercarry playstyle for this element is being offered to you, and if you don't already have a bunch of investment in it, or you're just not really interested in the other characters, then perhaps Galbrena may be more your style, and will absolutely cover you for fusion. At this point, you are spoiled for choice with this element. So I would say, do yourself a favor, cover your fusion, and then you're not really gonna have to worry about it for a while. However, as excellent as Galbrena may be, we definitely have to discuss her flaws a bit, with one of them being that she has quite costly teammates. This is because while you are likely able to use Mortefi and Shorekeeper with her and get by just fine, it's definitely not going to be as strong as using her 5-star teammates. I don't mean Choyuwen specifically, I mean just any 5-star teammate. I will say it's nice how flexible she is, but she is still flexible at the cost of wanting another 5-star teammate. For example, you're gonna want at least one Changli, one Brent Wuthering Waves, one Lupa, one Choyuwen, something along those lines. You ideally want at least one of her more expensive teammates. Now, if you have that, you're going to be absolutely fine. There's just not really any strong 4-star teammate for her that's going to be really good. And Mortefi is definitely going to be nice, but ideally you would have Lupa so that you could go Lupa into Mortefi, into Galbrena, and then form a unique sort of fusion team. It would only cost you 2 5-stars, which is better than the usual 3, but either way, Lupa's still quite a niche pull, and you only really get her if you're super into the fusion element, so that's also something else to consider. She is being paired with Galbrena on banners, to be fair, so you do have the opportunity to get her if that interests you, but if you're only gunning after Galbrena, then peruse your teammate roster and see if you have who she actually needs. This is important to consider because generally speaking in wuwa, if you don't have good teammates for a character, even if you're able to clear with them provided you have enough skill, it is just generally going to feel worse gameplay-wise. I've heard so many instances of people pulling a character without having any good teammates for them, and it just doesn't feel good. No matter how good that kit inherently feels to play on its own, the teammates are necessary. So make sure that you do have at least someone. It's nice because you have a lot of options at your disposal, and the thing is, most characters that she works with have had numerous reruns up until this point. Brent's had plenty, Lupa's getting one very soon next to Galbrena, and then Changli's also had a couple. So you should honestly have someone, and like I said, worst case, just use Mortefi Shorekeeper and it'll work fine. Will it be as good as her premium options? No, but it'll still be fine. I do want to emphasize, not every character is Kardathea and Zani where, oh my goodness, you don't get the 5-star teammate, it's absolute bricks. But it is just gonna feel worse. I will say that it will just feel worse. Anybody who's been in that situation knows what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then consider yourself lucky. However, now we have to discuss another con that I have, and it's just that we already have so many fusion options. Yes, her gameplay looks super dynamic and interesting, but undeniably, we already have so many fusion characters. Like, so many. A ridiculous amount, if anything. I don't really think that we need Galbrena being added to the roster. I think she should have been a Glacio character if it was up to me, because we haven't gotten a new Glacio DPS since Carlotta, and that release was ages ago. And she's still a very good DPS in fairness, but Triple Fusion is an insane team right now, and I don't really see the need as to why we needed another fusion character being added to the fray. And she has a unique playstyle, she does offer it in a hypercarry way, and she does offer different investment paths if you're somebody that's willing to go get Choyuwen for yourself. He's not necessary, which is excellent, and I think it's very good that you don't need him. It is amazing to make supports that aren't necessary but are good upgrades, such as a Yuno was to Augusta, a good upgrade but nobody necessary while still having pull value. I don't think that's a bad way to design supports at all, but that's besides the point. The main issue I have right now is that I'd say that if you're somebody that already has plenty of good fusion characters, and you already have a triple fusion team, you don't really need Galbrena. Now, if you only have a Lupa, and you only have an Encore, yes, it's worth the upgrade. If you have no fusion DPSs or fusion 5-star characters, provided that you're willing to get Choyuwen, yes, it's worth it. If you're somebody that has Brent Wuthering Waves on his own, yes, it's worth it. Generally, if you have at least one fusion 5-star, it'll be worth getting her. But the point is, if you already have more investment than that, then there is not really much point getting her. I would say this is a point that more so applies to people that have been playing the game for more months and they have been around for all of these banners, because if you've managed to collect these teams, it's not necessary. However, I will say, More options is not necessarily a bad thing in of itself. I just feel like fusion as an element is very oversaturated at this point, and on accounts that have already invested a lot into it, the value here is just not going to be as high because you already have a very strong option. I would say, if you can and you already have Brent and Changli, just get Lupa instead. All around, I think that she seems to be a pretty good DPS. I mean, it's a 2-point-X DPS character, she's obviously going to be good. I just think she is one of the more redundant additions to the roster, and that is my personal opinion. We'll have to wait and see more for her release, we'll have to wait and see more in terms of her performance, of course. I'm interested, I'll say that. Hopefully this video was able to tell you Galbrena's biggest pros and cons. This has been Juice, signing out, and to be honest, her biggest pro is being an absolute aura farmer.